students. What kind of greeting is that? We're going to be seeing a lot of one another this year, and so I'd like to start off today on the right foot with a proper greeting. So when I say hello to you, I'd like you to say hello to me. So, hello, students. Oh, that's a little bit better. Remember, my name is Mr. Skirpst, so let's try it again a little bit louder so I can hear you all the way behind the screen. So let's try it again. Hello, students. All right, that was better, and we'll work on that. All right, my name is Mr. Skirpst, and I will be your science teacher throughout the course of this year. And we're going to be utilizing a lot of these videos so that you can actually see my face. I don't like covering my face when I talk because I think I have a rather expressive face. So I want you to see my expressions. And so let's get started right away. Today and tomorrow are going to be introductory periods where I am going to be sharing with you some basic information that you'll need to know throughout the course of the entire year. So, first things first, let me officially welcome you back. So, welcome back, students, to our next year in science education. And so, we're going to be learning a lot of information about science, and I'm going to be encouraging you to ask lots of questions. We'll get to that later as well. But I'd like to start off today by teaching you a different language. What is that blank stare I see in your faces? Wait a minute, this is science class, not language arts class, not a foreign language class. What are you talking about? I like to start each year by introducing you to what I think is a very important term in Latin. By the way, Latin, as we will discover over the course of our education in science, is an important language in science, as is Greek. But I'd like to teach you some Latin today. And so the Latin word I would like you to remember is tabula rasa. Tabula rasa. Everybody repeat it after me. Tabula rasa. Let's try that one more time. Tabula rasa. All right, not bad. So when you go home today and you tell your folks what you learned in science, I want you to remember the term tabula rasa. So what does it mean? Well, if you look at the word, and we'll be dissecting words a lot this year, if you look at the word in the first part of the first term there, tab, you might think of something that looks like this, a tablet. A tablet. In fact, that's what tabula means, more literally, a tablet. Although back in ancient times when this first term came about, it wasn't referring to a digital tablet that you might have, but rather a tablet of slate. A slate. These are the kinds of tablets I actually grew up with. I didn't even, these didn't exist when I was your age. These existed, however, and we would write on these chalk tablets, these slate tablets with a piece of chalk. Now, if you look at the second part of this term here, rasa, we get an English term from this word, which means, or the word is erase. Erase comes from the Latin root word rasa. And so if you picture a tablet with an eraser, what do you do with an eraser on a tablet? Whether it's a digital tablet or a slate tablet, the result is the same. You can erase the tablet. I like to start off each year thinking about tabula rasa, or erasing the tablet, or erasing the slate, or to put it in another, perhaps more familiar term, a blank slate. We begin each year with a blank slate. It is your opportunity starting today to have a blank slate upon which you have the opportunity to write whatever you want. I don't know anything about your past. And if I did know you in the past, I was blessed with a very poor memory, so I don't even remember what your past may have been like in terms of grades or personality or behavior. And it doesn't matter, because at the beginning of each year, we start off with a clean slate. So it's up to you this year what you want written on your slate throughout the course of the year. Don't think about last year. Don't think about years in the past, how well or poorly you may have done in any class, especially science, because you get to start over. Every year in science, we start over fresh. Now, some of you might be looking at me and thinking, wow, he's really old. Look at all that white hair on his face. And I know I have more hair on the bottom of my face than I do on the top of my head these days. But I want you to know something. Even though my short-term memory may be failing, my long-term memory is still intact. And I remember, believe it or not, when I was a kid. You may be looking at this awfully cute young chap and wondering to yourself, who is that? Well, it's a kindergartner back in 1973. And yes, that is a picture of me. That's me back when I was a kindergartner in 1973. And I remember my first day of kindergarten. Believe it or not, I remember looking around and seeing all these kids crying and weeping. And I'm thinking to myself, what are they crying for? This is kind of cool. This is a new adventure I'm starting in life. And that's the way I want you to look at today, as an opportunity to start a new adventure in life. Now, I know that we're not in kindergarten anymore. You might be in 6th, 7th, or 8th grade. We're in middle school. This is the first day of our new year together. And again, I actually remember when I was in middle school. I remember everybody in my middle school class. In fact, this is a picture of my class when I was in 8th grade. Now, why don't you take a moment and see if you can pick me out of this lineup here of the 8th grade students that I went to school with in middle school. So if you'd like to pause the video, take a moment to see if you can pick me out. Great. Did you find me? There's me on the bottom with the, a little bit more robust hairdo than I have today, but that's me in 8th grade. And I got to tell you something, I vividly remember my 6th, 7th, and 8th grade years. I remember middle school, and I do remember the challenges that every generation faces in middle school, the drama between boys and girls, the awkwardness of the changes of your own body, the changes taking place in your awareness of your place in the universe, in addition to your place between you and your siblings, if you have them, and your classmates. So I know there's a lot of changes going on in your life right now. I remember it. So you can consider me a trusted older adult. If you're experiencing things in or out of the classroom, believe me, my long-term memory is intact, and I remember how difficult these days are for you. But I want to give you good news. The good news is you're going to grow out of middle school one day, and you will have fond memories as well, despite the difficulties you might face today. But let's get on with it. Let's get into the classroom here, and let me go over with you some classroom basics. Number one, you're going to be coming in every day, and we are learning in a science laboratory. This is not a normal classroom, and I am not a normal teacher, as you may have already guessed. But we will be sitting at laboratory tables, and you'll be sitting on stools. And in order to keep the laboratory safe, The very first instruction I like to give you is what to do with your stool when you stand up. When you stand up from your stool, the first thing you should do is push your stool under the table. And there's good reason for that. Not only is it just a good habit to get into, but in a laboratory, oftentimes we're going to be doing things in the lab where there might be some potential dangers involved. And if we are standing around our table and the stool is in our way, it could cause us to trip and fall. Or if there's some type of emergency or a fire drill and we've got to get out of the room quickly, we don't want to be tripping and falling over the stools. So we're going to practice this. I'm going to ask you to stand up and I'd like you to show me what to do with your stool. Are you ready? Stand up. All right, that was not too bad, but I think we could do it a little bit quicker. So sit down again. This time when I ask you to stand up, you're going to stand up and push your stool under the table. Are you ready? As quickly as you can, but also as safely. Ready? Stand up. Nice. So get into the habit. Every time you stand up, whether you are doing an activity around your table, going to the bathroom, leaving for the period, whatever the case may be, whenever you stand up, push your stool under the table. Thank you. All right, next. It is entirely possible that throughout the course of the period, you might have to relieve yourself by excreting your solid or liquid nitrogenous wastes. If that is the case, if you need to go, let me tell you that you don't have to ask my permission to go to the bathroom. If you've got to go, go. If I'm in the middle of a lesson and you're raising your hand and I want to finish my point, I don't want you having an accident. So if you've got to go potty during science class, look in the forward right-hand corner of the lab and you will see the sign-out list. And yes, the sign-out list is not a piece of paper. It is, in fact, a toilet seat. And so if you've got to go to the potty, go up to the sign-out location in the room. Don't go here, by the way. Just lift the lid and write your name on the lid. That way, I'll know where you're going. You're going to the bathroom, which is down the hallway, not in the classroom here. And everyone else will see that there is someone out at the bathroom because only one person is permitted to go to the bathroom at any point in time. So if you've got to go, but you see the lid is up with somebody's name on it, just wait until they come back before you excuse yourself and go to the bathroom as well. I do ask that you use this eraser, however, to erase your name and always put the lid down when you are finished and back in the room. That way, if someone else has to go, they'll see, oh, if the lid is down, I can go to the bathroom right now. Go over to this location, write your name, and do what you need to do. No need to report the details when you return. All right, moving on. In the front of the room and in the back of the room are trash cans. And as far as tissues are concerned, a supply of tissues is provided for you in the very back of the room. So turn your heads and look back there right now. You'll see a tissue box is always there. And if ever it is empty, you can feel free to go to the office to get a replacement box. But the tissues are in the back of the room for very good reason, for cleanliness and for proper etiquette. None of us want to see you picking your nose. So please don't pick your nose, whether barehanded or with a tissue. Don't pick your nose. We don't want to see you blowing your nose either at the table because, well, that'll just spread germs all over the place. So the tissues are in the back of the room. If you've got to blow your nose or pick a winner, go to the back of the room, use the tissues, throw them out in the trash can right by the tissue box, and there is hand sanitizer right there by the tissue box. So keep it clean and read the poem that I wrote for you back by the tissues as well. I think you'll enjoy my attempt at poetry with the tissues back there. Okay, so now don't all of you run back to blow your nose right now, one person at a time, so that we don't share germs with one another. Next. Every single one of you is given a pencil on this, the very first day of school. There is no excuse for not being in class, in science class, without a pencil. If you forget a pencil, in the back of the room are hundreds of pencils. Take one if you need one. One, please, don't take them all, even though there are plenty back there. But if your pencil point breaks and you don't have a backup pencil, you'll notice there is a pencil sharpener in the back of the room by the sink, and there are also pencil sharpeners, individual pencil sharpeners in your little cubby storage areas over on the right-hand side of the lab. And you can look over there now. You'll see that there are extra pencils, pencil sharpeners, calculators, and erasers, and other materials that you are allowed to use throughout the course of the year. You don't have to ask permission to go over there if you need one of those items, but those items in those little cubby slots are intended to be used on a borrowing basis. They're not yours to keep, but I'd like you to keep them in the lab in case you need to use them while you are in this room. So I provide everything you need in science class, material-wise. I just ask that you return my materials in case you need them the next day. Now, as far as all of your books and belongings are concerned, you will notice that I have the lab tables turned around, so there are no slots there to store your materials, but all of your materials are to be stored in the large cubby areas under the window sills. They are all numbered, and I have already given you your science numbers. And those science numbers should be written in the front cover of your book, right under your name in your book. Those books are yours. And the only thing you should ever have at your table in science class is your science book, something to write with, preferably pencil, and everything else, all of your other belongings, your books for your other classes, they should be placed in the cubbies over by the window side of the room. And by now, all of your things are over there because that is really the first thing you should do when you enter the science lab each day. And I'll be watching you tomorrow. You just simply come straight across the room, put all of your things in your storage cubby, have your science book and a pencil with you, and then have a seat at your assigned location at a laboratory table. Next. You will notice as you look around the room, again, this is a laboratory, not a classroom. And so as you notice, you have electrical outlets right in front of you. Do not stick anything in those electrical outlets. We'll be using them from time to time for activities and lab activities. We'll be using devices that need to be plugged in. And we don't want them to be ruined by having other items plugged into them and ruining them. You'll also notice that there are funky looking apparatus at your station called air jets and gas jets. The gas jets get plugged into the tubes for Bunsen burners. Yes, in 8th grade, we'll be learning how to use and using fairly frequently the Bunsen burners in the laboratory. Don't play with them until you are instructed how to use them. The sinks, don't touch the sinks. We'll be using those. And really, look at this sign here, the restricted area. In the back of the laboratory, there is a restricted area. It is a storage room where chemicals are stored. That location is off limits for you. That's where all the supplies are. I will be in and out of there on a regular basis. I'm going to let you peek in there at the end of the period if we have time, but that's generally a location that is completely off limits to you. Now, moving on, we are going to be having monthly drills, a couple of monthly drills in the science lab, one of which is a drill that you've been having since kindergarten, our monthly fire drill. When we exit this laboratory, all you have to remember is you need to exit to the left, exit down the grand staircase, go right out of the door, and then line up single file. And as we do this, we are silent, both on our way out and our way in. That is the fire exit location from the science laboratory. Again, left out of the room, left down the stairs. When you get out the door, you make a right, and then you line up single file and silent where you are directed to do so in case you need to listen to any instructions. Now, if we have security drills, safety drills of other kinds during the year when we're in the science lab, I will show you exactly where to go, but it will be in the back left corner of the room near the storage room, but you will be sitting down on the floor behind the lab table in the back of the room so that you cannot see the laboratory door. If you can't see the door, then no one at the door can see you. And that's the way we'd like it to be. And in addition, you need to be quiet as well. Now, if these drills happen during a laboratory activity, if we're dealing with chemicals or a Bunsen burner, your first priority is to take your hands off of the chemicals, make sure they're safe, and make sure that the Bunsen burners are turned off before we leave for a fire drill, or the drill may turn into an actual emergency. We don't want that happening. So your first priority during a lab activity is to make sure your lab table is safe before you leave. Now, there is a phone in the laboratory. It's on my desk this year, and there are a couple of numbers that you will need to know if there is some type of an emergency. And actually, this year, and I apologize, I should have added this before I started the video, but we have a new phone system. And so the numbers that you will need to know there, I've just updated it for us, are 4-digit numbers. If you need to contact the nurse, let's say I collapse and you want to get the nurse, hopefully you'll want to get the nurse if I have collapsed, just pick up the phone and dial 2240. Don't dial Pizza Hut and have a party and cheer around my body on the floor, but please call the nurse. Likewise, if you need to call the office and I am somehow incapacitated to call the office, then call 2210, those digits. Now, real quick, because we're running short on time, you're going to be leaving shortly, but when you do, I want you to remember how I like to observe hall behavior coming into and leaving the science lab. I want you to remember the 5 S's. Stay to the right, single file, silent, slow, and smile. Even though you might be wearing a mask, smile anyway, because you can tell whether someone is smiling or not. So to finish up here with today, we've got our basic rules. Be nice. Be nice to one another. If you remember that rule, everything else will be fine. Have fun. I hope that throughout the course of this year, you will have some fun in science class. That's my objective. And icing on the cake, try to learn something new. And if you think you've heard it before, ask questions. Take it a step further. Try and learn something new that you didn't know before. So I'll finish with these science resources. We'll be talking more about them tomorrow, but Google Classroom will be our one-stop location for science. You're going to be checking it every day, and we'll take time in class tomorrow to do that. Your science book, which you have, your science book, you've got everything in there that you'll need to know and to refer to, other than the videos, which will be posted on Google Classroom, and the science website. You've got it written in front of you there. You've got it in your book also. If ever you're in doubt, just bookmark the science website and go there in a pinch, and you'll have all of the info that you will need. So I hope I haven't overwhelmed you too much here on this first day of school with all of this information. But the great thing is, if you're bored tonight and you've got insomnia, you can watch this video again and again to remind yourself throughout the year about some basic things I want you to know in the science classroom. All that being said, I look forward to tomorrow, because tomorrow we're going to be going over some more basics before we get into our very first topic, fresh starting next week. So until tomorrow, I'm going to say bye-bye.